Hey everyone, welcome to a new video, welcome to my channel. My name is Maaike, and in this video I'm going to hopefully under 20 minutes talk to you about 20 different products by 20 different brands that I didn't like. I already did the positive version of this video, I think in July, but I definitely wanted to do the follow-up because not every product you try from a brand is of course going to be up your street. And even though I'm going to be mentioning brands here that I absolutely adore, let that be absolutely clear, I don't hate on any of these brands, but they don't always do the best products. So that's why I thought I could do this video and talk to you about 20 different products that I didn't really like from 20 different brands. I'm going to put the pictures right here so you can see, because not all of the products I will be mentioning I still have in my collection, because by now, if I didn't like them, I definitely don't hang on to them. So here we go. So the first product that I wanted to mention is the Essence You Better Work Tinted Moisturizer. The new You Better Work line has not been super successful for me in general, but this tinted moisturizer, it only comes in 2 different shades, and the light shade just makes me look like an Oompa Loompa. So that's why the Essence Tinted Moisturizer in the You Better Work line wasn't exactly my favorite. The second product I wanted to mention here is a very old school Urban Decay product that they have also discontinued by now, and it's their 24/7 concealer pencil. And I remember picking this up because I wanted to try an Urban Decay concealer. At the time, I think the Naked Skin had just launched and it was always out of stock. So I decided to go with the next best thing, or so I thought, which was their concealer pencil. I had mine in the shade DEA, and it worked well in terms of shade range, and it also had like a good coverage, and it didn't look dry and cakey. But this was a pen, like a pencil that you couldn't sharpen because it was like a plastic case that the concealer was housed in. So in order to sharpen it, you needed a special sharpener. So that was one thing. And when you sharpened it, you lost a lot of product. So what a lot of people were doing with this was to melt it into a little container and use it that way. So that's what I ended up doing. So the packaging of this was a complete faff, a complete disaster. So I'm glad that they discontinued it because it wasn't great. The product itself was really nice, but just the way it was used. Once you wore the tip down, you barely could use it anymore, and it was an expensive product. Catrice is of course one of my favorite makeup brands. You see me do lots of videos on their products. There are definitely a couple of hits and misses in their line, and in their most recent releases, they came out with an under eye primer. And I thought that was ingenious. I think, yes, it just didn't work very well. I wore it with a concealer that I wasn't a huge fan of to begin with, to see if it could make it look better, but with the primer. So what I did to test it out was apply concealer on one eye without the primer and one eye with the primer. And the primer side looked worse at the end of the day than the just concealer side. So I was like, no, Catrice, this is not working for me. I think if you want to use an under eye primer, just use the eyeshadow primer. If you have one of those like transparent eyeshadow primers, then just use that, because that can work really nice if you struggle with concealers pulling into your fine lines. Then definitely that's a pro tip right there. Maybelline is a drugstore brand that I absolutely love, but their eyeshadows, I've never really been able to get down with. Their Blush Nudes eyeshadow palette just looked gorgeous. It was all those rosy tones. This came out when the Urban Decay Naked 3 was like super popular, so it was totally on trend. I bought it and there was like only one shade in that entire palette that worked. Like everything else was just so dry and flaky. It just didn't do a whole lot. So Maybelline Blush Nudes, I think you can still get it actually. I think it's still for sale, but Maybelline eyeshadows in general, I haven't had much luck with. So that's a bit of a shame. Too Faced then, another one of my favorite brands. I love their complexion products. I have a bunch of their eyeshadow palettes, but their lipsticks, I have never really been able to get down with. And for a while, they did these melted lipsticks that came in like the squeezy tube with like the fuzzy applicator. I bought one in the shade Peony, which, I mean, it worked okay. It was a really nice shade on me. I just hated that application. I'm not sure why, but I have a little bit of like I'm a bit iffy when makeup products come with these like fluffy applicators. Like Maybelline Age Rewind has it as well, which it just makes me cringe because all I can think of is that's not very hygienic. Ooh, it just looks gross because then the product comes like out of the... Ugh. I'm not sure what it is. I wasn't a big fan. I ended up not wearing that lipstick a whole lot. It also didn't stay put. I think they did come out with like a matte version and like a metallic version in the end, but I was just so over that sort of formula and that way of applying my lipstick that I completely skipped those other lines as well. That was a very unsuccessful product for me. A brand I also love is Colourpop, but Colourpop also has a bit of an issue because I just feel because they turn over so much product that I do think that not all of it can be good because it's just too fast. I love their eyeshadows and like their color products in general, like lipsticks, blushes, highlighters. Of what I've tried, I've really enjoyed. What I'm not really happy with is the complexion products that they came out with. They came out with a foundation and a concealer, and I just think that they're more aimed at like oilier skinned people. So I just think that, you know, of course, everybody starts raving about like Colourpop concealer, $5, ooh, or like $6. It's super amazing. So I bought one, and the shade is spot on. But this was the concealer I was pairing with that Catrice under eye primer, and without the primer, it already looked bad at the end of the day. It was a concealer that looked nice for like maybe an hour or two, but I'm just not a huge fan. So that was an unsuccessful one for me from Colourpop. Some more drugstore then. Rimmel is actually one of the brands that I think more people should rave about, but I don't think they change over their line as much, definitely not here. But they sometimes come up with some new stuff, and since they're a bit more expensive, I feel that, at least over here they are, I definitely don't just pick up their products on a whim. So one day I found a couple of their new products on sale. I was like, yes, they had a really nice deal on their Stay Matte liquid lipsticks. And this was back when the liquid lipstick craze was like really having its moment. And I tried it and I was like, what the? These were not great, you guys. I personally love a very matte, drying liquid lipstick, so that was not my issue with these. My issue with these was that they were just really messy to apply. So when it came to the applicator and also in combination with the formula, I felt that when I tried to draw a line around my mouth, you got these really sort of like flaky bits that you couldn't really make a very nice, neat, even line with. And I just think that the formula was perhaps a little bit too drying, a little bit too mousse-like for my personal taste, because the shade range was great. They lasted really well as well, but if it takes me about 30 minutes to put on a lipstick, I'm not down with that. I also wanted to feature some high-end duds, you could say. So especially when I first got into makeup, I thought makeup had to be expensive for it to be good. So I bought some Chanel and some Dior and those kind of like luxury, like up there brands. So I'm not even talking about MAC. Like I went even a step up. And at the time, some people were really raving about the Rouge Allure Velvet lipsticks by Chanel. So I decided to try one. A shade that was very popular was a really nice bright poppy pink shade called Éclatante, which I still have. I still have it because it comes in like really nice, luxurious packaging. But oh my, it didn't stay put. Like, what's up with that? A matte lipstick that just didn't wear very well. And then the shade, while very pretty, it was just a tad sheer. So it really showed my natural lip color through it. And no matter what I did, no matter how much I tried to build it up, I felt it never went on opaque, and that was just so annoying. And I mean, that was like a 37 euro lipstick. I mean, for that amount of money, I want it to be like stellar, like it has to be super good quality. So I definitely sort of decided that splurging on a lipstick like that, I only now do on like Charlotte Tilbury stuff. Maybe a YSL one, they do some really nice lipsticks too. But Chanel, Dior, I've definitely decided that that's not their forte. If we're talking Maybelline, Rimmel, we also need to talk a bit of L'Oreal, because I think that L'Oreal is, I think, a brand that a lot of people venture to, and they do some excellent foundations. That newest one, the 24-Hour Fresh Wear in their Infallible line, has my heart. That is one of my favorite drugstore foundations. but they didn't always get it right. A few years ago, they came out with one of those very watery foundations, back when that was a thing. It was called the Nude Magique Eau de Teint, over here anyways. I think it had a different name in the US. But it came in a little glass bottle, and you had to shake it up, and it was this very watery foundation. And it looked horrible on my dry skin, especially around my nose. It accentuated all of my dry patches. You could really see it sitting on the skin as well. And I believe the shade range of this was also quite bad, because I remember it being a little bit too dark for me as well. So that was definitely a bit of a dud. MAC products, I really love their eyeshadow. I love their lipsticks. I love a couple of their foundations and concealers and powders. Like, MAC is one of those brands that I feel are a good all-rounder, but they don't get everything right. I personally do not understand the hype surrounding MAC blushes. I have tried a couple over the past couple of years, and there are one or two shades that really stand out to me that I like, but I've also tried a few that I'm like, really? Is this it? So MAC has a tendency to do like a mineralized, like a mineral makeup collection every year, and a couple of years ago there was this limited edition, and this was back when I was still trying lots of different things from them, and when limited editions by MAC were like the be-all and end-all of makeup. So I decided to buy one of their blushes in this mineral limited edition collection. I believe it was called the Heavenly Creatures collection, and in that it had like this like space sort of vibe. That was their inspiration. And I bought a blush called Solar Ray, which in the pan looks absolutely gorgeous. On the cheeks, it was one big glittery mess. So I ended up decluttering that, because that was just not a look that I really like on the daily. I like a bit of glow in my blushes nowadays. I'm definitely veering towards more glowy blushes again, I find, and not something super matte, but just glitter in a blush, no can do. That is a really nice bridge actually to the next product I want to talk about, which is the Bobbi Brown Shimmer Bricks. I tried one, you guys, and I ended up never using it. Like, never. So I ended up getting rid of it. I think it was called Pink Quartz. It was a pretty shade. It really suited my skin tone, but again, the shimmer in there just, it didn't really work. Like, I just didn't like it very much. Maybe if I had a different shade that worked more like a blush on me. I keep looking at that Nectar shade that they do, and that might be something I may want to get someday. But like I said, glitter in a cheek product, I'm just not a fan, and this was just a little bit too sparkly for what I like. Another cult makeup product that I'm glad I decluttered it in the end, and it's the NARS bronzer in Laguna. Everybody, like, this is such a cult favorite, and everybody loves a bit of NARS Laguna, and I used it for years, especially in the summertime, thinking I could make it work, and now looking back on it, I'm like, girl, what were you doing? Because that shade is much too orange for you. It also has sparkles in it, but they're not noticeable once you put it on the skin, so that was good. It's just not my shade. And that's why I ended up decluttering it in the end, because it's just, I was over it. I was like, I've tried everything to try and make it work. It just looks muddy on me. I have bronzers that look much nicer, so why keep it around? If you're very fair like me, Laguna is not going to work, let me tell you that. Then the MUA highlighters. So when MAC started doing their extra dimension skin finishes, MUA came out with the same wavy pattern in their highlighters. And those got a lot of hype for a little while there, and I tried one of them, and I just thought it was a bit chalky and a bit meh. So that was one I decluttered very early on. Tarte Shape Tape, I think also should be on this list. For as much hype as that concealer got, I was so disappointed in what it did for me. It's definitely one that's very heavy duty, but that's not what I go for on a daily basis. If you're into the whole Instagram glam makeup, then Tarte Shape Tape, yes, is one of the best concealers on the market. If you like something that's wearable every day, doesn't crease on your dry skin, it's not the best. It's just a bit too much. And I think actually it's a concealer that works best if you don't have too many lines yet either. So I think that for mature skin types, it definitely isn't going to work. So that is definitely one that's why this had to be in this list. And then I think one of my biggest makeup duds in my early makeup career was the Benefit eye primer. I think it's called the Stay Put or Don't Stray eyeshadow primer. They still do it. It's still on their counter. It did nothing. It just made my eyeshadow crease horribly, so that was a big dud. And this was back when Benefit was like my favorite makeup brand. Like Benefit used to be the brand I went for everything when I first got into makeup too. Then NYX came out with metallic liquid lipsticks, and they just had a really weird sheen. I do have to say I only tried their blue because I think it was all like blues and greens and reds and like these really funky colors. And yeah, it wasn't a good look. It just wasn't. Maybe I'll pop a picture here of what it looked like on me. It wasn't a good look. Makeup Revolution has to be here as well. I've told you a couple of times already that I'm over their eyeshadow palettes. And one of the reasons why I'm over it is because I tried a couple of their older styles and I just feel they do a lot of repeat shades, and especially their older eyeshadow palettes had a very similar undertone to every single shade. So I'm particularly mentioning the Pink Fizz here because I think that palette suffers from it the most. I'm not sure if you can still get it, but that had like the same sort of shimmer in every single shade, making each shade translate like a slightly deeper version on the eye, but everything looked the same. So in the pan, it would look very distinct. And then on the eye, it just all blended together into one big muddy mess. So Makeup Revolution Pink Fizz, I got a couple of Canadian makeup products to try in a swap last year, and a lot of the products were really well, but one product that I was very disappointed with was the Marcel blush that I got, mainly because I couldn't open it. The packaging of it was faulty, where it came with a little container with a brush and a mirror in the bottom, and then the blush was in this like middle layer, much like the Physicians Formula stuff. But that blush layer just got stuck in the lid, and I had to use like a nail file in order to be able to pry it open and get to the blush. I'm like, no can do. I will not be able to use that on a daily basis. Wet n Wild is a brand I also need to mention here, especially their eyeshadow palettes, you guys. I know so many people love them, but I've tried Rosé in the Air from their newer line, and which is the Modern Renaissance dupe, and I couldn't get down with it. It just, I don't know why. I felt dry, chalky. I felt it didn't bring me much. I'm still interested in trying that new Comfort Zone one. I do want to try that, but so far, Wet n Wild eyeshadow just hasn't been successful for me. And another brand where, again, I feel their eyeshadows get a lot of hype is e.l.f., especially those matte for matte palettes get a lot of hype, like the 10 pan. And no, I don't know why. It just blended away. And then over here, e.l.f. is marked up quite a bit as well, so it's not as affordable as it is in the US. So I feel like for the quality and then the price point, I just felt it didn't really add up. So those were the 20 brands that I wanted to mention in this video. I hope it wasn't too ranty for you, but I think it's also good to talk about the things we don't like, so that hopefully you can make up your mind about it a little bit better. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you would like to see more by me. I make new videos 3 times a week, so I have lots more content coming your way. So I hope you would like to stay tuned, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!